So the biggest theory on this is leading from the history of wordplay that RTD seems to love so much. He has done this before, such as Bad Wolf and Saxon. So we have this Susan Triad. This is an anagram for Tardis. But if we add the technologies onto the end, so we have Susan Triad technologies, the theory here is that you can take the Su from Susan and the tech from technology, and this gives us Sutekh. Put those together and you get Sutekh. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit like, because it really does help the channel out. I'm currently aiming for 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there. So that's the first hint at this big bad at the season finale being Sutekh. But if you actually look at the branding, Susan is not in it. It's S Triad technology, or just Triad technology. So really you can't put Susan and technology together on screen. You can only do this if you know her name is Susan, and you take the Su from Susan, tech from technology, it equals Sutekh. So S Triad standing for Tardis tech is just a stronger theory. The next one is in the promotional trailers. We get Sand and World Ending. Sutekh is also known as Sutekh the Destroyer, who planned to destroy all life in the universe. So this could heavily nudge at this being the main villain for season 1, as it does describe what Sutekh has planned for the universe before. We also have the expanded universes not being able to use Sutekh. Sutekh also didn't show up in the audio novel The Box of Terrors. It was apparently supposed to be about ᴄᴏ versus Sutekh, but that idea was shelved because of right issues with Sutekh. So it is possible, because when RTD brought back the Master, Big Finish were not allowed to use the character for a while. This helps to stop continuity errors within the expanded universe until the story for the TV series has been told, and then Big Finish can work around the gaps in time to create new expanded media. Something is wrong with the TARDIS, so by now we all know for sure that there's something wrong with our beloved blue box. The TARDIS appears to be sickly, dying even. She is not landing in normal ways, but rather flying in to land or crashing when she feels like it. This has been happening since Wild Blue Yonder, since Donna spilled the coffee on the console. At least that's how it appears. But this is the first time we get to see the TARDIS go off in one. Since then she has been landing wrong, having sparks when she lands, and just overall making strange noises as if she's feeling under the weather. Sutekh is known for being able to project an image of himself inside the TARDIS, but what is not known is the level that this can go to. How much control could he potentially have over the TARDIS? The Lost Tales of the TARDIS episode. So it's not really lost, but it wasn't included to begin with when Tales of the TARDIS was first released. So we're getting a new Tales of the TARDIS episode just before the finale, and we know that ᴊᴏᴅᴜᴜ and Millie Gibson will appear in this episode as well. Tom Baker is the only Doctor not to appear in Tales of the TARDIS, so it could very easily be the Pyramids of Mars, to prime fans for Sutekh's return. If this is the case, I hope that they edit and trim this episode down, because there's a lot in it that over a 75-minute runtime just does not need to be there. But the Pyramids of Mars would be about 80 minutes, and this episode of Tales of the TARDIS would be about 75 minutes so far as we know. So this potentially could be a really trimmed back episode, or an entirely different episode also. The image in the trailer for Legend of Ruby Sunday. So some people, not me, but some people are theorising that this is a newer version of the robot mummies in the Pyramids of Mars. Of course, with better VFX and a better budget these days, we can expect them to look better than they did back in the Pyramids of Mars. I just don't see it at all though. And then the visual we get for what appears to be Susan Twist dressed as a White Walker from Game of Thrones. Thanks Culture Filter for this one, I found it funny. This could be seen as Sutekh with the mask off, but again, I don't really think so. This is a push and a shove, to be honest. But here's some points on why I think Sutekh is not returning. So my problem with this theory is that Sutekh isn't stronger or more powerful than the Toymaker, or Maestro for that fact, for all that they were very powerful and godlike to humans, and even more powerful than the Time Lords. The Osirians were explicitly stated to be mortal beings of this universe. Clark's law firmly applies where the Osirians are concerned. The Toymaker isn't of this universe, so would never be bound by its rules. This entity is an immortal force of play from outside our known universe, and space and time itself. So while RTD may well be setting up for Sutekh as an opponent bigger than the Toymaker, it would show that RTD doesn't quite understand the initial concept of either the Toymaker or Sutekh, and ideally the story should have been written in the opposite way, having Sutekh in the giggle and then the Toymaker as the big bad, as this is only logical. Also, to add on to the fact that it is the Pantheon that seems to be the main player in this overarching plot, I think if this was Sutekh, we would have seen more godlike villains by now that were not related to the Toymaker or the Pantheon. It's not like there's not a list of siblings they could have used through the series, as Sutekh does have a lot of relations. Any one of these could have made an appearance to link us to Sutekh instead of the Pantheon gods we have seen already. Sutekh was also trapped for 7,000 years, leaving only their conscious remaining. Yes, in expanded media, they made a way in which he kind of managed to sidestep that trap, so it does leave them open for a return at some point, potentially. But I don't think this is it. I don't think right now is when Sutekh's coming back. So let's talk about the Tardis for a minute. So the Tardis is most likely to be affected by whatever Susan Triad is doing. It seems to be more hinting at potential time travel being announced or something big along these lines. And this potentially could explain why we have all the Susan Twist splinters scattered over not just time but space also. Remember, the TARDIS is a space-time machine, so it makes sense. So we've seen how this can be possible before within the show. The Third Doctor explains it while tinkering with the TARDIS and Unit, and we've also seen how Clara was echoed along the Doctor's time stream. Susan Triad would have tested this technology she was making, and well, it could have just been a simple accident, and she has splintered herself through all of time and space. In the trailer, it doesn't seem like Susan Triad knows these other echoes of herself, these other splinters, but she knows that she sees them in her dreams. At least that's the way that I kind of took it. But as Susan Triad has come closer and closer to perfecting whatever it is she has in store to announce to the world, it makes sense that the TARDIS being weak, since it was already split in two, but this means that also it wouldn't have the strength to deal with anyone draining power from it either. Hence why it can't seem to land correctly. It makes weird noises and it's showing visible signs that something's wrong. So with Susan slowly completing her project, the TARDIS gets weaker and weaker. During the Third Doctor's era, there was a lot of opportunities for someone to steal a part or even some plans for the TARDIS, as the Doctor was tinkering about with it in Unit for a full season. RTD did say something was related to the Third Doctor, not the Fourth Doctor, so this makes it less likely to be related to Sutekh also. The next thing I do want to say is, if Sutekh is the returning big bad for the end of this series, I would seriously not get your hopes too high if you're a big fan of Classic Who or the specific villain itself. As we have seen in the past, RTD brings back old villains and they always return in a new way. This is me saying that the Sutekh that we may end up getting will be a different Sutekh that was in the classic era. This may even make him look completely different, and the backstory of this god may also change, as we've seen RTD do this in the past as well. Just like RTD had to do with the Toymaker to allow them to be acceptable in today's society, he will also have to make adjustments to allow this god to also be suitable, as society and TV are not the same as what they were in the 1970s. So although it would be good for us to have another classic Doctor Who villain return, overall it will not be the same Sutekh that we all once knew. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit like, as it really does help the channel out. I'm currently aiming for 1,000 subscribers, we're almost there. Just a little over 300 to go, which is exciting. And if you want to stay in the YouTube universe, don't forget to click this video right here. It's always the best place to be.